One of the challenges in finding a useful representation of time arises from the fact that we live in different time zones. Most of us are familiar with the idea, even if we're a bit hazy on the details. They're part of the price that we pay for living on the surface of a rotating sphere. Right now it's about 2:15 here in England, but it's only 9:15 in the morning if you're in New York, say. And the function local time, which we used in the previous demo, converts a time t according to the local time zone. But how does Linux know what time zone we're in? Well, the environment variable tz specifies the time zone. Or failing that, many applications will read time zone information from the file etc local time. Here we see tz specifying the Central European time zone, which is 1 hour ahead of UTC. Basically, the value of tz names a file under user share zone info, which contains information about the time zone and also when daylight savings time begins and ends. Now, the broken down time returned by local time is in the right time zone, but it's a binary representation and not human readable. The simplest way to get a human readable string is with ctime, and it returns a fixed format readable string. It takes as input a pointer to a time t, and it just returns a printable string in the local time zone. This cheap and cheerful approach gives you no control over the format of the string. You get what you get. So functions like ctime and local time will automatically take care of our time zone, but we're not quite out of the woods yet because we don't all speak the same language. The day Sunday 8th of March in the United Kingdom is represented differently in Germany and differently again in France, for example. The fact is, different cultures have different ways of writing down times and dates, different names for the days of the week and months of the year, and so on. This information is captured in something called a locale. Basically, a locale defines the conventions for displaying money amounts, times and dates, and numbers. Locales are defined by files under user share locale. When you install Linux, you specify a default language and you will get a default set of locales to go with it. You may need to install additional packages to get additional locales. Here we're installing the package language pack.de to get the German locale. Assuming the locale is installed, you can select it by setting the environment variable lc_all, as I've shown here. And there's one final step. For a program to become aware of a locale that's been set in this way, it needs to call setLocale, as I've shown here. Let's take a look at an example of a function that uses the locale to control the conversion of time to a human readable form. That's struff time. It takes as input a pointer to a broken down time. It writes its output to a buffer supplied by the caller, and that output is formatted according to a format string. This format string contains format codes a little bit like those that you see in printf. There's a whole myriad of them. I've shown just a few on the slide here. You need to look at the man page for struff time to see the full list. This little program is basically just a wrapper around struff time. We call setLocale to make the program aware of the locale specified in the environment. We get the current time as a time t. We convert it here to a broken down time by calling local time, so it's now in the local time zone. And then we convert it to a string using struff time. Here's the format specification. This gives us hours, minutes, the day name, the day of the month, the month name and the year. And finally, we output the string to standard output using put_s. Let's try running it. So here we have the time and date reported in my default locale, which is for the UK. Let's change the time zone. We'll set it to be Eastern Standard Time. And we'll run the program again. And you'll see here it's now 5 hours earlier, as you would expect. Let's try changing the locale. Now the locales I have available can be listed from the command line with the locale program. Locale -a will show us all the installed locales. Let's try setting a German locale, like that, and we'll run the program again. So now we see the time and date represented with German day and month names, and looking at that, it was perhaps not a very smart idea to include the words it, is and on in the output string, but we'll let that pass. So we have a slightly bizarre situation here where we're displaying the time in the EST time zone using the German locale. It would make more sense to set the time zone to match the locale. So we'll set it to Central European Time and run the program again. And we see here that Germany is 1 hour ahead of us, as indeed it usually is.